Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast with PJ and Mike. Now find yourself a seat at their table.
Hello, welcome to the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast with PJ and Mike. I'm Mike.
I'm PJ.
And today we're going to be reviewing Dream Theater's new album, Parasomnia. And PJ is going to review this band called The Metal Warrior, which released a comic book tied in with a 45 record of their music. So it's a music-related episode, guys, and we're just going to get straight to it, PJ. I'm excited.
I know this is probably your favorite band.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. Would you put them on your list of favorites above or below the Stones?
That's a hard one, man. I would say maybe just above the Stones.
Really?
Right. I always say the Holy Trinity for me. Then I have there's other bands who I adore too, but I always say it's like Nirvana, Rolling Stones, and Funeral. That's like the Holy Triforce. And then I have other bands I adore Nine Inch Nails, and, Days of the New. I can go on, but Tool. Those are like the gods. If I pick one, I pick Dream Theater. But PJ, that's a great question to start with because Dream Theater has said this themselves. We have the best fans in the world, but also the most critical. So that does not mean, folks, that I'm going to bash this album or praise it, because DT fans, they're diehard fans. I am a diehard fan, but I'm not one of those ones who are just completely blind. And a lot of people who are fanatics, tend to just have a very hard time just like accepting reality with things. Like, you could still like love someone and disagree with them, right? It does not mean like you and I disagree about things. I don't put our friendship in question.
Right.
It's people that have a hard time because somehow they want this thing that they love to be tarnished to some capacity. There's some Stones albums I don't love. Doesn't mean somehow it's tarnished how I feel about them. And they didn't really put out that great of a record. So
that would be like saying because every band has good and bad albums. Like Metallica is one of my favorite bands of all time.
Yep.
We all agree that Saint Anger is not a great album.
Right.
We still love Metallica, even though they put out Saint Anger and we had to listen to it.
Yes, exactly. So I'm going to do my best to really be objective as possible and not to be swing either way, but I'll say this, one of my favorite, folks are watching at home, but one of my favorite heroes, I don't know if you can see it on camera.
Yep.
His name's Timothy Speed Levitch. He's a comedian / modern day philosopher. And he always says, all great bands have half-lives. So I'll start with this. Just to give PJ some background on the folks at home. For those who never heard of Dream Theater. So they've been around for now 40 years, which is crazy, my whole life. So
that is crazy. I didn't realize they've been around 40 years.
Yeah, they didn't really blow up till maybe in terms of where their status, like in the early 90s. Just to give you some kind of just perspective why this album is huge right now, is because the original drummer has returned back to the band, PJ. So the best example I could give in some capacity is just imagine the Beatles, their first half of the career, Ringo decides to leave, right? And now Ginger Baker fills in for drums, and they make albums after that. So, but everyone wishes that Ringo would come back, right? Let's just say. So this is kind of, I could just say he's a founding member. He's a huge powerhouse of the band as a writer. So him coming back is huge. So there's a lot of anticipation and excitement for him returning. So that's the best way I can kind of explain it for the folks at home who might have never heard of Dream Theater, why this is such a big deal with this new album, because it's the full original lineup, and I call it the classic lineup, okay? And I can go into more and more, and yes, people are like, well, technically, the keyboardist is really the third one. I get all that, but this is the definitive lineup, okay? So just to make life easy. All right. So just to give some folks at home, it's entitled Parasomnia. Part of me feels that's an interesting name for an album title, because the whole album thematically has a theme. It's not a concept album, so it does not say one singular story. All the songs revolve around sleep disorders, whether it's insomnia, night terrors, sleep paralysis, all that. So parasomnia is basically having a disorder with sleep. And the reason why I think that's kind of fitting, because it's kind of almost a goof on their name, Nightmare Cinema. You know, it's the reverse. I'm not sure if they did that on purpose. I know back in the '90s they used to do, during the middle of their sets, they would switch instruments and they would be called Nightmare Cinema. So I'm curious if that was an inspiration for thematically, like, oh, we should do an album where it's the reverse of our name. I know it's not Nightmare Cinema, but anyway, you get the point. So PJ, as you know, Dream Theater, they played their prog rock or their prog metal. I don't really like that label of Dream Theater being called that now forever. Progressive metal. I prefer them to be under the progressive rock because I think they were at their best when they were progressive rock, like a Rush. I feel when they got labeled as metal, I felt their songwriting started to go to started leaning more towards that way, which I don't think is their best when they're at their best. But anyway, I'll get into all that. So guys, this album only has 8 songs. Okay, so it's a rather
long
short
songs.
Yes, PJ. Yes. So the only thing is, even though there's 8, technically there's only really 6 because one song. I hate when bands do this. It's like a minute and 30 seconds of just like, I don't know, sound effects and some kind of
like
story.
An interlude of some sort.
Yes, thank you. Perfect. Yeah, you're gonna skip that. I appreciate it, but you're never gonna listen to it. And the first song is about 5 minutes long, but the first 2 minutes is, like I said, it's kind of like them, like you hear the character go to bed, and then you hear and then it's very cinematic, and then then it goes into the instrumental. So, but yeah, I'm just gonna go down, folks. Go by track by track.
The way you're describing it kind of reminds me of King Diamond a little bit.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Yep. Good analogies. Yep. So we're gonna go down the line. So, like I said, 8 songs. First one starts off with "The Arms of Morpheus," and no, Lawrence Fishburne is not in this or anything like that. But like I said, it's only about 5 minutes long. It's an instrumental, and Dream Theater is known for their instrumentals. However, I'm not really in love with this one because it's technically an overture. An overture is usually like a piece of music that kind of, I say, like a montage of all the songs in it. And for me, I felt like, well, this album is just thematically about, nightmares and such, and not really one singular storyline. I don't really think you needed an overture, but the reason why I don't really like it is because I just feel like the song, it starts off really cooking, and then it gets into this kind of like boring thing. And I'm like, oh man, they kind of want them to kind of just keep on that groove. But it's somewhat of a strong opener, and you're gonna hear me say this a lot. It's enjoyable, but something about it is somewhat forgettable. So we go to the next song, which was their first single. It's called Night Terror. I actually think this is the weakest song of the album. I actually don't like the chorus pretty much at all. It reminds me of their other song, which is common with bands. You're going to have the same feel. I get that Invisible Monster from the last album, but I do not like the chorus at all on this. I don't really have much to say. I know this is the first one they wrote together as a band since the drummer Mike Portnoy left. So 14 years later, they came back. They wrote this first song together. This is their first single. All I could say is it's fine. And like I said before, I find the song somewhat unmemorable. Like, it's fine. It's hard for me to kind of go back to it exactly. The next song is called A Broken Man. This was released. This is another single that was released, the second single. Without getting too hardcore into it, it's fine. It's another song that I find somewhat unmemorable. I almost can't really hum a riff or anything. That's all I have to say about that. Dead Asleep. I like the intro was cool. This common thing that John Petrucci has been doing in the past couple of albums is where like the song will start with something really cooking, like a good riff or groove, and kind of cuts to this solo that like I don't really think he even needs. Like, look, all members of the band are playing at an extremely high level still at their age. They're in their late 50s. Some guys are in their late 60s, and they're cooking. That's not the issue. What he's playing is insane, but not really sure. I really think that's even needed in the beginning of this song, is these kind of early solos. And once again, I like the song, and there's something about it I don't find like memorable. it's like somewhat forgettable. Can't place my finger on it.
Do you think it's because they're not all clicking, even though he's an original guy and he comes back, he's been gone for so long, something's not clicking with them in the chemistry of the band, or is it?
I don't. I'll get into that.
Okay.
That's a good question. I mean, they all have their signature sounds, like in terms of like his drum fills sound really good. They're high in the mix. His drumming is awesome. Everyone's playing at a high level. That's not the question at all. It's really, as I get into, as you're probably seeing, is the songwriting, I think, is lacking. Then their next song, which I think is one of the best songs of the album, it's called Midnight Messiah. Like I said, it's one of my favorite tracks. This one is catchy, has a Zakk Wylde type of feel, Iron Maiden feel, Metallica feel, especially in the choruses. Yeah, it's really good. I think it's a fun song. It's a really rocking good song. It's a good song, probably. I imagine them. They're starting to play it live now. That's a great song. Number 7 is the one I told you that is that interlude, like we discussed. I think a first time running through this album, you'll listen to it, but I think in the future, this is one you got to skip. I can think of a handful of bands that I leave the interlude playing, maybe in certain Tool songs I like, but normally I don't really listen to them after I heard it once. After that is, I guess, technically the only ballad of the album. It's a very heavy album overall. It's called Bend the Clock. Um, Really good, great guitar solo by David Gilmour. It's a pleasant song. It's one of the best songs on the album. It has a different feel, more of a classic rock feel, a more shorter piece. Um, and just to go down the track times, and PJ, you're gonna be floored with the track, how long the last track is. But the first song is 5 minutes 23 seconds. The second song is about 10 minutes. The next song is about 9 minutes. The fourth song is 11 minutes. Midnight Messiah. The last single they put out was 8 minutes. Are We Dreaming? That's the interlude. It's 1 minute and 30 seconds. This song I'm talking about right now, Bend the Clock, is 8 minutes. I'm rounding up here. And the last one is a big epic, and it's 20 minutes long, PJ. And that's called...
That's a long song.
Yes. And Dream Theater has gotten me used to listening, so I don't really mind that. However, it's 20 minutes long, and I don't really think it needs to be 20 minutes long. And as I keep saying, I think it's fine, but something about it's somewhat unmemorable, And
20 minutes. I mean,
so
I get that they're not necessary. Here's my thing, and I know.
Yeah, they're not a Nirvana. They're not
Nirvana,
that kind of band.
And I get they're not looking to be on the radio. You know what I mean? Like, I get it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not a musician. Never been in a band. But I feel like my brain, the way it works is like, if I am in a band, whatever I'm writing in the back of my mind, I'm going to be like, well, this thing's got to get airplay somewhere.
Right.
And you're never going to get on any of these songs, even 8 minutes. Like, no one's ever going to play these songs anywhere.
Yeah. Well, they knew starting their career that they weren't going to be that kind of band.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like a band like Rush, I think, is the only, I'll say, prog band that really kind of hit it big, besides maybe like a Genesis or a Yes. But the songs that are hits usually tend to be shorter, a little bit more commercial. Right. They have one commercial hit, Dream Theater, that was Pull Me Under, and they have other songs that kind of broke out, but that's like, they hit. They have a goof on themselves. They have a greatest hits album called Greatest Hit, and like 10 other pretty cool songs. So they know they're in it. And folks, before I get more specifically what the pros and cons of the album is, and if you want to hear more about this, because I can go into a deep dive. I call it a panel, so it's kind of like my brother and my friend Shore. We've done this for years, where we listen to like one of our favorite bands that released an album. We sit together, we listen to it, and then after we talk about it. So like, if you want it, comment below, because we can go for hours just on one track, what we like and dislike about it. So I'm trying to keep this short and sweet, but I'll start with the pros. Obviously, I went through all the songs here, but pros, everyone's still playing on a high level. Like I said, these guys are in their late 50s. Some are in the singer's in he's 60 years old, 61 years old, and the keyboardist is like 68 years old. So they're playing at an extremely high level in terms of their instruments and all that. It's insane, completely insane. They haven't slowed down a bit, and it's not like, and they're playing difficult stuff I'll never be able to play. Most people can't, so they're playing at a extremely high level. That's no question. I'm excited that Mike Portnoy's back in the band. No question. Having this original lineup, seeing them, they were currently on tour doing their 40th anniversary celebrating their careers, and also this new album. Now there's in support of the new album. So my negatives is I'll say this: I find it to be a very safe album, and I think that's where there's a sense of like blandness, and ever since for me this is more of the so many diehards listening. I feel like their songwriting kind of start to change when they did Systematic Chaos in 2009, where they kind of explored these lyrics about monsters and demons, and for me that's cool. Like if you want to try something that's fine. But when I don't really. It was good for what it was. You know what I mean? That's it. The best comparison I can think about is like the Rolling Stones, where like they only have 2 songs that are about the devil: "Sympathy for the Devil" and "Dancing with Mr. D." And they had countless people like, "Oh, you should write more songs about the devil and all stuff." And Kiefer just says like, "Well, that would ruin it." That's what makes them special because we only have two
Right.
songs about us talking about that crap. You know. But yeah, lyrically, I feel like I can't really get into like the lyrics are fine. I don't think they're terrible, nothing like that. But I really like when they write more about, being spiritual or, introspective and those things. I feel when they write lyrics that are a little bit more fictitious and have these kind of storylines. They've done it well in the past, but I think a whole album of it kind of feels a bit. That's why I think, thank God they had the ballad, because it feels a sense of like, oh, they're at their strength there when they write like that. I just, for me, like I said, having Mike Portnoy back in the band, I felt like, all right, they got to get back to like, because with their last drummer, and he was a great drummer. He wasn't really part of the songwriting. The songwriter was always the guitar player, mainly with Mike Portnoy, John Petrucci. And those are like the 2 main ones, really. They made all this. Mainly, other guys brought crap in, like John Mayung, blah, 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 but they were the main shebang. So when he left, that was like, hurt. It's like losing your songwriter. It's like McCartney,
When he left, was it
Mhm.
for any negative reason, or he just wanted to like
he
try other things, or
he basically he got burnt out with the like the TT machine, like it's kind of like, which they are, like, I'll say, a cult band, you know what I mean, like kind of like rinse and repeat. You tour, you write a new album, you put a new album, you tour. They've been doing that for, at that point, like 25 years. They're not like
right,
a Blink 182 or a Stones, where you could take a break and still keep generating
right,
money. They don't. And most bands today, or any artists, they don't make money anymore selling records. They make the majority of their
on the
money.
tour?
Exactly. Most bands are like that. Artists like that. Now it's even more difficult though when it comes to money, especially with Spotify. Da 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 da. And they're like one of the. I'll say they're not one of the first, but I feel like they're definitely one of the. I'll say like. I'll say one of the pioneers that started like in the '90s, like putting out vinyl records. A special edition, like a lot of merch. They were
Right.
kind of the ones who really, a lot of DVDs, and
Mhm.
they're really, now that's like commonplace, but they're one of the first ones that really kind of going that way, because, like, look, we're not, like you said, not going to put a 20-minute song, 8-minute song on the radio.
Right.
So they had to make other avenues of making money. But yeah, like I said, I think this isn't I don't think it's a bad album. Part of me just feels it's kind of just hard to revisit. The best comparison I can give uh, folks is like Tool's latest album, Fear Inoculum. That people waited like almost like 15 years for them to put out a new album. And when it finally came out, I was pretty much very disappointed with the album. I was like, oh my God. And same thing, they have interludes on that album. So I can't remember exactly what time I had. Maybe there's 10 songs, and technically there's only 7 songs on it, The rest are like
Mm.
interludes and crap. So I'm like, ugh. But yeah, it's just like I said, I just find this Dream Theater a little just lackluster. Like I said, um, they're playing at a high level. Thematically, I think they've kind of done this already. They already put out like a kind of straight up heavy album with Train of Thought, and they kind of, I think they've kind of just done this. So that's why I think this kind of like this safeness in it. It's not a bad album. It's not an atrocious album. I think also just with their singer James LaBrie, I think he's an older man now, so he can't hear the crazy notes that he used to. But I think sounds best when he does more rock, and not metal. He's not really a metal singer. And like I said, having sprinkle those in, like you have 1 or 2 songs we can put, I think you're holding him back where he can really shine when they have so much metal-esque type songs.
So an
And
album like this comes out, and it's a letdown. And I assume if you're let down, plenty of other Dream Theater fans are going to be
Well,
let
that's
down
the
also.
thing. Well, that's the thing, because like I said, Dream Theater fans are very insanely passionate, kind of like the
Right.
comic book fans. Like, you don't want to mess up the lore. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's diehards. So, like, I'm a part of all these Facebook groups. Yeah, I don't want to say it's I'll say it's mixed reviews, because you have some people who are like me, who are saying, it's a safe album. Well, it's not atrocious. It's a little like lackluster. You have
It's
other
just
bands.
it
It's
just
their
exists.
best
It's just
album they
there.
ever.
Right.
Yeah, it's their
So
best piece of music ever. And I'm like, well, I don't think it's that, guys.
so does that mean, and I'm asking this as someone who doesn't have
Yeah.
any
Hmm.
sort of idea how musicians think this through.
Yeah.
You wait this long to release this big an album, right? You get the band back together.
Yep.
Everyone's highly anticipated, and then it falls flat. Is there a point where they look and they say maybe we're done, or does this motivate them to make another album even bigger and better?
Oh yeah, I think they're definitely put another
Okay.
album. I think that's not the
But do you
thing.
think it's going to be like years in the making, sort of an
Oh
album, or they're going
no.
to pump it out in another about 6 months? You're going to see one, or
Oh,
what do you think?
maybe like another 2-3 years.
Okay.
They'll put out another one. Maybe 2 years.
Okay.
Um, I could see them doing that. Um, Yeah, I know it's like I said, I'm trying to keep this review kind of short and to the point and concise. Like I said, I can go super deep, but I don't want to torture PJ. So folks, if you want a hardcore one, I could definitely do that. It'll be a separate YouTube thing only. But um, but to give it a rating, using our Cool Kid system, I would give it a PB, peanut butter and jelly with fries. That's
Okay.
it.
So right in the
It's kind
middle,
of,
a little
yep,
above the
right.
middle.
Yep.
Right.
So some of our non-hardcore listeners, it's like maybe you would say maybe like a 6.5 to a 7 at a time. So it's not terrible. I think it's a good album overall, but it's not an album that you're gonna like. Their past albums, or think about or just folks I know you, PJ. Like, let's say you listen to a new album, like, oh my god, I can't wait to replay it again.
Right.
Like I used to listen to this stuff. Like after it'd be done, I would press play right back. This, I'm like, you know what? I'm done for today. I'll listen to it tomorrow, maybe 2 days from now. And I don't know if it's burnout or anything, because I've been listening for basically my whole life since like '97. But yeah, I think it's good for when you're gonna work out, maybe go for a drive. That's pretty much. If you're a musician, of course you're gonna jam to it. But other than that, I don't really, see you like listening to it over and over.
Right.
I don't really think it's that kind of has that kind of charm. Like I said, you listen to it a couple of times throughout the week. Not every day where like I was obsessed,
Let me
PJ.
ask you this:
Mm-hmm.
for a band like this, obviously they tour, and we get that,
Yeah.
right? Um, but for any band, this band, any band, because we live in this digital world where you can drop a song whenever you want,
Yeah.
would it be better, right, instead of coming out with an album, for these songs to make a really good song and then just
Mm-hmm.
drop one?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then, 6 months later,
Drop
they've
another. Yeah.
worked, drop another really
Yeah.
good one song. And they don't have to connect in the way
Right.
maybe it does on a concept album or anything like that. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But can you just make a song work as long as you need to on the song, make a good one, you drop it, everyone loves the new song, and then you work on your next one and you just do it? Would that be a better avenue, do you think, for bands these days? Maybe not newer bands, right, who are actively on the
Yeah.
radio and stuff like that, but for these old school bands that are like pumping out an album that people are, and it's not just Dream Theater. I mean, you're going to
Yeah.
hear the same review, I think, on
Mm-hmm.
any of these albums that older
Yeah.
bands come out of nowhere and they come back, and
Right.
everyone's always disappointed, and everyone always says, well, there's like two really good album songs on the album, the rest, I'm never going to listen again. Would it make more sense for these older bands to stop doing albums completely and just do songs, like what Billy Joel just did with his what was it, a year or two
Yeah.
ago? He
Yeah.
dropped
Mm-hmm.
one song. There was no album with that. He
Right.
wrote a
Yeah.
song and he dropped
I,
it.
yeah. I think a band like Dream Theater or certain bands, like, they have such a cult following, or a following, like especially a band like DT, they need to put out an album just to generate money. They need to
Okay.
tour in support of something.
Right.
You know what I mean? They can't just play the hits. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
When they
Right.
tour. And people like me, I want to hear like I said, I don't really mind hearing, like, they don't really put out singles, but it's not like they're not that kind of band. So I don't
Right.
mind hearing the other tracks. I don't mind things like that. So I do think, PJ, you bring up a good point. And here's my thing. This might Any DT fans are gonna blow them. They're gonna gotta start throwing tomatoes at me right now. I think they would benefit by working with a producer. Yes, and I know a lot of people going, well, what do you know about music? I'll tell you right now, folks, before you yes, I've been in band since I was since '97, you know. I play guitar, I've been in many bands, and yes, my band Tomorrow's Fire, we released a song and we had one of the former keyboardists of Dream Theater play on it. So that's Derek Sheridan. So I put my money where my mouth is. It's called Shiver in Summertime. Tomorrow's Fire is the name of the band. Shiver in Summertime. Derek Sheridan plays on it. Okay, there you go. So I can throw my hat into this ring. So the reason why I think they would benefit from producer is early in the career they had other guys, and then they had this one particular album where they went try to go commercial, let's say, and they don't really like that. I actually love that album. It's called Falling to Infinity. The band themselves are not really proud of it because they felt they compromised their, integrity, whatever you want to call it, right? But ever since, they've been producing the albums themselves. It was the drummer and the guitar player, Portnoy and Petrucci, and then Portnoy left, and now it's just mainly Petrucci, just a guitar player, producing it. And I would tell my guys, look, you've had a long run since '99 producing them. It's okay. Try something different. It would help with just someone going, you know what? Cut that out. Focus on this. I really think a big difference. And I'll just say this. Think about bands like Metallica, Bob Rock, you know what I mean? Rick Rubin, you know what I mean? They helped Metallica, Slipknot has worked with Rick Rubin, the Stones, their latest album that they put out, they used to produce their own albums. And then they had this guy named Andrew Watt. And it's a great album. So you think about a band that is as accomplished as them, the Stones, my God. They work with a producer too. So I feel like, who am I to say, but I think it would really benefit someone just for a change of pace, because I just know how it is to make music, and I never we do it I always did it collaboratively, but sometimes it's kind of good to let someone else kind of I don't want to say call the shots when you're trying to be creative, but someone be like, you know what, I think this song will work better without.
Well, it's like that with anything.
Section, yeah.
Even if you take it away from music, if
Yeah.
you're talking about someone who just writes books, you have an
Yes.
editor.
Yeah.
You have an
yeah.
editor, someone
Yeah.
that says you don't need all this. This is cut this.
Yeah.
Shorten this by this many pages. No, you
Mhm.
have someone that looks through it and then makes it better. Because if
Yeah.
you're too attached to it, you think it's great because you're so
Exactly.
attached. You need someone else neutral to go through and say this can make this even better. This isn't working. If you don't have that,
Yeah.
sometimes you get lost in your own mind and
Yeah, I
kiss your
agree.
own ass too much.
Exactly. Like you said, that emotional attachment to something, because you
Right.
might like it because they're playing what they're playing, some sick solos, and especially, there's a couple of the opening of the songs where Petrucci plays these opening solos. I'm like, you don't even need that. It almost takes away of the girth, this grit, and they play this. Oh my God, and he's done it countless times now. And what he's playing, yes, insane, but we don't need it there. It doesn't add much to the song. And I think having a producer can kind of cut things out, focus on this, focus more on the songwriting. Because like I said, each song is this. They're pleasant to listen to at the same time. I'm like, I can't really tell you what I just listened to. You tell me, oh my, hum it back to me. I'd be like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I really can't. So, I still love them. That's not in question. But yeah, I definitely think they would definitely benefit working with a producer, particularly with Bob Rock, because he did, Metallica. So he did the Black Album for so many after that, and he did Motley Crue, that guy. So I think he can really capture the balls and really, making those songs. Not even the length of the songs. I mean, some of the songs, yeah, you can make shorter, because I feel like kind of like Metallica is guilty of that too in their careers, where you probably don't need that verse, something in I love Sad But True, but I think right at the guitar, so they go back to another verse, and I never really loved that verse for some reason. I always feel like they should just do an outro or kind of just jam on that, but we'll go back to the chorus. But anyway, but yeah, folks, I thought it was going to be difficult to review this. I can go hardcore. I'm not going to subject PJ to that. It's something we could potentially explore in the future. And now PJ's going to review this comic book music tie-in, which I think is fitting because Dream Theater put out a comic book. Well, it was part of a series where they're on the comic book cover of the band. The storyline has nothing to do with the band itself, but they were featured on the. PJ actually got me as a gift of every kind and still have it. So I'm kind of curious. And PJ, it's called The Metal Warrior correct?
Yes, Metal Warrior, Psyched in Descent. I don't know if you can see it. I have it here, and I don't know if it's going to come up backwards when you look at the video, but this is the cover of it. So,
Yeah.
what I do when I have, obviously everyone knows we have the comic book store, right? So I work in the comic book store, and I have to do the ordering. Every so often, something will pop up that I've never heard about. You know, this was a new #1 issue, so it wasn't anything that I was familiar with, but it piques my interest. And metal is my favorite kind of music.
Mm-hmm.
This is a book and a vinyl record set about a metal band called the Metal Warrior, or a character called the Metal Warriors, right? So I was like, all right, I'm gonna get a couple of these in the store. I don't know if it'll sell or not. No one's ever probably heard of it, but I like the idea of it. It came with the vinyl record. I just thought it was cool. I said, let me get a couple. I wanted to check it out anyway, so I was gonna order one. I'll order a couple and see if it would sell in the store or whatever else. And then I finally got around to reading it. This actually came out a little while ago. I've just been so busy I haven't had a chance to read it. The price is $19.99, and it's a comic book. It's not like it's 100-something pages. It's one single issue. So I bring up the price because a lot of people won't spend $19.99 on one issue of a comic book, but it's because you're getting the album, right? You're getting the vinyl, so it jacks up the price. And I will say this book did not sell very well in the store. I didn't expect it to, but I thought maybe I'd sell a couple more than I did. And I think the price point scared people away, because if you're not going to listen to the vinyl, then why would you spend $20 on a comic book? I say that just because I think, if someone was going to come out and try and buy one of these things, and like, do you really want to spend $20 on a comic book? It would have to be a really good comic book, and the music would have to be top notch to earn that price. So
especially with a band that's like unknown, that's hard. It's not like a Deathlock that has like a cult following. Now it's an animation.
I say that because by the end of this review here, I will let you know if the $19.99 price tag is worth it. But I'm going to review it first. So let me take out some of my notes here. Put this down. We'll come back to that. This is made by a comic book company called Z2 Comics.
Wow.
Anyway, Z2 Comics, and it's TSDC Recordings.
Okay.
Is the recording. The band are the characters in the comics.
Okay.
Okay, so like, I don't think this is a band that will ever go on tour.
Right.
I think the idea is that the band are the characters, is the best way I can describe this. So let me tell you who are the characters, and hold on. Let me see if I wrote all their names down, but they don't have regular names, so it's like you try and read this thing and it makes no sense. The character, the drummer is a giant like ape.
Okay.
They're all like aliens. They travel across the galaxy. So it's written by a guy named, I think Greg Koch is his name, but when you look at the book, that name doesn't show up. It just says story by Cram and Fellows and art by Fellows. But I don't think these are real names. I couldn't find anything on them. So I don't know. I don't know much about these people, which is tough to review something when you don't know anything about them. I went into this completely cold.
So we don't know.
Are you familiar with Kerry Kelly?
No.
I was the guitarist for Stadium Rock Icons Night Ranger.
Oh, I know that band, yeah.
So that's the guitarist for Night Ranger. I think is somewhat involved with the music here.
I was gonna say, do we know who the musicians are? At least on the record.
When you look through it, it doesn't tell you anything. It tells you absolutely nothing.
Just the characters.
It's
not even the real musicians who play on it.
Exactly.
That's
just the characters. And that makes it cool in a way. Do you remember the Gorillas?
Of course, I love them, yeah.
And you know how like the Gorillas were the
2D and
right.
Murdoch.
I would compare it to that. So I can't tell you who the musicians are because I don't know their names, and
That's interesting because the characters. The Gorillas. You know who they are. You know the guy from Blur and all the other stuff.
Right.
But yeah. I'm surprised, like especially with the metal scene. Oh man, the guitar player from Night Ranger or the drummer from, Anthrax. Right. Like I'm surprised because that can help obviously sell it. Surprised they're not doing that.
I could not find, like I said, a single thing. And I said, well, that's weird. Like, why not try and? But I'm wondering if maybe they're not big
Just
artists.
regular. Yeah,
They're
that's
just
right.
regular artists that they just found. And they, like I said, they travel the galaxy with rock and roll. The plot in this book was impossible to follow. The art is I'm going to hold it up so you can see it. I don't want to call myself an art snob, but I don't know if
Right.
you could kind of see it here. It's serviceable. The art is serviceable, but when you're a comic book fan and you read comic books every day and you see some of the best artists the industry has to offer,
Yeah.
it's very tough for me to then read this book and be like, oh, I want to keep reading it. I found the art was like flat and not, it just wasn't dynamic, is a word
Right.
to use. It's not dynamic art. As a comic book fan, if you have to stare at the page to read it, right, that's what it is. You're looking
Yeah.
at the art and you're matching the word. If the art's not interesting to you, it's real hard to get into the story because
Well,
it's
it's a
just how
visual
comic books,
medium. Yeah,
it's a
it's a
visual
visual medium.
medium and it
Hmm.
doesn't work. The art completely took me out of it from page one. I was like, oh, I don't like the way this is.
So the storyline is they're basically a band, right? And
Right.
they play rock and roll. And do they save lives between shows? Is that what
They,
they're doing?
but
Or
that's the thing. There's no shows in the book.
or do
You
they
find
save?
out.
Are they saving people? Like are they like a part of like they're playing music for a revolution and
Yeah,
they're
kind
playing?
of. I mean, if you look at this, you see that this picture here.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
like
yes,
kind of. I think everyone's kind of seen that in like hieroglyphics. It's like a
yes.
picture we
Hmm.
all know. Like you find out like they've been playing music through all of time, and that's the guy from the band. That's the lead singer.
Oh,
He's a
huh.
yeah, you know what I mean. Like he's the
Okay.
front man of the band, and it's like the ideas are cool, but it it falls so flat. It's so uninteresting. the The story makes zero sense. They're coming back together. They're trying to be a band again because they got separated for a bit, and then they were across the galaxy. They have to come back because they need the galaxy needs the metal music. I guess is what
Right.
to, to save time and space or something.
Is it a comedy? The book? Is it
No,
like?
I didn't
Oh,
laugh.
oh.
I mean, maybe I was supposed to, but I didn't. It's it's a concept album as a comic book is a way to put it. They're trying something and it doesn't work. It's the four members are an anti-hero and a front man. His name is Psyched. And these names, when you read a book, you have to be able to remember the names of these people.
Yeah, if they're too complicated, it gets
And he's like a cat-like person. He's like a cat wolf, I guess. That's the only way I can describe it. If a cat and a wolf were combined.
Mhm.
There's another guitarist, Queen Va. These are names that mean nothing to anybody.
Yeah.
The drummer I thought was the coolest design for all the characters. He's a white ape with four arms. His name is Torque.
Hmm.
And then the bass player is a time traveler named Quandam.
God damn. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And they come from five different galaxies and they come together. And again, like they I guess the galaxy was oppressed and their music frees them. Like this is what I'm saying. Like when I'm reading the book, none of it makes any sense.
Hmm.
It's really look. People put hard work into this. They came out with a product that was made nicely. It is a high quality like just the product itself, like the feel of the book, the look of it. Like what they put out is a high quality piece of merchandise. But the story is damn near unfollowable. The art is so like I don't want to look at it. Like I just very amateurish to me. And I am sure people put their heart and soul into this, so you feel bad to shit on people who put out something, but I could not get into this. So
So the comic book is not good.
the comic book,
So my follow-up question is, how is the music?
okay, yes.
Now, which is on
Uh,
vinyl. Now, is it a full album or is it like it's like a single on
it's like a
each?
single. You got one track on each side.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for the, but the thing is, there's going to be other issues of this, right? And so the next book would have two different songs.
Sure.
So I think if the idea is at the end of the run of this book, you'd probably have they'll probably put out one album. I'm
Right.
going to show you what the album looks like. It's a cool looking album.
Okay.
Nice looking. I don't know if you could see it.
Yeah.
But
It's like a almost like a well, it's not blood splattered, but like it's white with some for folks who are not watching, listening.
Almost like a bloodshot eyeball.
Yeah, that's
look
it.
To it, right? Like that's.
So it's like on a 45 record.
It's on a 45. Yep. I think it's a 7-inch disc, so that's a 45, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So the music. How was the music? It wasn't bad.
Okay.
I can't tell you who they are because I really don't know who the artists are, who the musicians are.
Is it like an 80s kind of? I'm getting the 80s feel, like 80s kind of metal. Like
yes, it definitely has that 80s metal feel to it. I listened to each song on there twice just to try and you know. Like you said about the Dream Theater album, if you asked me to hum it right now, could I?
Yeah.
No, I couldn't. I don't even know if I could repeat to you a verse in the music. But when I was listening to it, I was like, oh, this isn't terrible. This is something I would listen to. If I had on, the radio, like the metal stations, like Lithium or whatever they have on Sirius XM, right? You put one of those metal stations on. If this popped on, I might be like, oh, all right. I would. Yeah. I'll listen.
Yeah.
I wasn't mad at it. The guy's voice who sang.
I was gonna say, fine. What is it like? Is it like a Iron Man, like run to the hill, like very kind of operatic, or is it like a Pantera kind of thing? Or
no,
like,
it's definitely not like Pantera. It's definitely more
growls,
of the old school, more of an old school '80s higher pitched singing. It's not quite like operatic. I wouldn't say that, but definitely the '80s vibes with the singing. Not Pantera. It wasn't very throaty. It's not that throaty growling metal.
Right.
It's more hair metal.
Hair metal. Okay. All right.
I would say maybe more hair metal. In between hair metal and I wouldn't call it glam metal. I wouldn't say it's that kind of music. I mean,
like so,
I can even play.
Is it like a? I'm getting the vibe. It's gonna more like a Motley Crue type of.
Let me know if you can hear this.
Kind of reminds me of like a power metal, as they say.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's not really hair metal, it's not really glam metal, it's definitely not thrash or speed metal.
No.
It's just 80s metal.
Yep.
And it's serviceable. It's not bad to listen to. It didn't make my ears sad to hear it. Will I listen to it again? I don't know. Here's why.
Right.
Not because it was bad. Will I listen to it again? It means I have to pop in a vinyl to listen to it again.
Yeah.
How often? I have a record player. That's how I heard it in the first place. But how am I gonna be sitting around popping on vinyls every day to listen to this thing? Probably not.
Nah.
Here's another thing that I thought was a little disappointing about this. I thought if you give me a book with a record attached to it, I almost feel like it should be the soundtrack to the book.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And I don't feel like it was. I don't feel like it was a soundtrack to the book. I listened to it while I was reading it the first time, and I found it too distracting because I was trying to see if I liked the music and see if I liked the book. And I was like, this isn't working for me. So then I listened to it separately without the reading the book and then read the book separately, which for me, I ingested it better that way. It was too much to listen and read at the same time, especially when you're trying to talk about the book the next day. You're like, well, if I do this, I'm not going to get a good understanding. And it was hard enough to get a good understanding about this book in the first place. Once I was distracted, I feel like if you made this into something that's not a comic book, right? Maybe it's an animated thing. It doesn't have to be a movie.
Yeah.
Like an animated short, right? With their music as the background. And almost like an anime or something.
Yeah.
If you made this into like an anime styled animation project with the metal music, their music in the background, almost like an extended music video sort of a thing.
Yeah.
I think there's something there where it could be cool. I appreciate that they're trying to do something different with the comic book medium. I think that's very cool. There's been a lot of crossover between music and comic books lately. A lot of record sets have been coming out where they re-released the musical score for Superman the movie.
Yep.
And then they put a comic book with it, like a whole set. There's been a lot of crossover between music and comic books this year, I've noticed. And this was an original thing. It wasn't taking a score that already existed or an album that already. This was new for this, and I thought it was such a cool idea. I thought the cover looked pretty good with this guy with his guitar / mace, and he's this lion wolf. It looked cool. It looked metal. It looked cool, and I was really hoping that I was going to be able to read this thing and enjoy it. And I couldn't give a single shit about this story if I tried. I tried, and I forced myself to try and get through this, and I could not. There is in the back of the book here. I'll read it a little bit about who they claim, I guess, the writers are, but I don't know. So it says, Fellows, once the foremost artist of the Palace of Akhnjar Kamoon in Kamoon City on the planet Xenios, Fellows could no longer turn a blind eye to the sordid evil and injustice of the Kamoon family. Using his magical artistry to recreate the brilliant and bloody story of Metal Warrior as they fight to free the 5 galaxies, he himself has become an enemy of the Akhnjar Kamoon, who would love to see Fellows painted in his own blood and entrails. That's the writer. Like, this is what I mean. Like, they don't tell you who these people are.
Yeah,
and the artist is Crom, a renowned mystic, seer, chronicler, historian, and keeper of the books of knowledge at the great library of Ashabodok and the Grey Gokian nebulous of the Nephrologok.
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's making something too complicated to sound cool, and special. They should have just kept it like, they're from, Mega Planet, you know what I mean? And we gotta use rock and roll, just keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Like, this was too much. They tried so hard to make this something. That's like, how you read the back of a book and it gives you like a little bit about the author?
yeah.
That's supposed to be the little bit about the author. And it makes no sense. And I understand you're trying to make it unique and the author is part of the story and all. It just like, what the fuck did I just read to you? Did it make any sense to you?
I have no clue, and I don't remember any of it.
That's
because it's too complicated.
That's
like
exactly the feeling I have with the
language
entire
is
book.
just,
I don't remember any of it because it's all this like weird fake sci-fi sort of time travel-y intergalactic gobbledygook of words that don't mean anything. You cannot remember a single thing you read. It was a total disappointment. So, with that said, the book a total disappointment. The music, fine. I wouldn't mind listening to it if I had an easier way.
Right.
You know what I mean? If I had an easier way to listen to it, I would probably. If it came on a shuffle, I wouldn't turn it off.
Right.
It may not be the first song I put on. So does that. Before I get to the Cool Kids rating system, the first thing is: would I recommend paying $19.99 for this book? No, I would not, which is a shame because I have to sell them. But I would not recommend spending $20 on that book.
That's really more like I feel like a $10 book, maybe even an $8, really, honestly.
I mean, it's an oversized book. It's bigger than a normal comic book, so you're getting more art. I think there's a couple more pages than a normal comic book. If you charge $9.99 for this size book, between $7.99 and $9.99 with no record, that's the most you would pay for this book. But with that being said, I wouldn't pay that either for this storyline. I would not. The music was the only redeeming quality here. So no, it's not worth $19.99. If I have to put the Cool Kids rating system on it, well, I would say banana. The book itself, just the book, banana peel.
Right, that's very low, folks.
The music, mystery meat and a side of fries.
Okay.
Right down the middle. Right in the middle. It's not awful. It's not the best. It's right in the middle. If you heard it, you wouldn't be mad at it. So yeah, the book itself, if you really love music and you wanted to just hear a metal band that you've never heard before and you want something new, I mean, if you could listen to the music somewhere, give it a shot, but I wouldn't buy the book to get the album.
Yeah.
That's how I felt about it. I know that with comic books, it's tough to jump into something brand new. It's tough. You're competing with the
Yeah.
Spider-Man of the world. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so if you're not going to be a straight up superhero book, which this book is not, right? That's the good idea. Don't be a straight up superhero book. You're not going to create a new superhero today that's going to go against Batman,
Yeah.
right? It's going to take the last new, like, not DC or Marvel superhero comic book to really kick off and be huge. Superhero comic book. So not like Walking Dead, which is its own thing, right? But superhero, probably Invincible, which now has the Amazon Prime
Yeah.
cartoon. That was a really good new superhero story where it was good versus evil guy in tights, right? To take off. And then maybe The Boys, if you want to count that, but that's not even really straight up superhero storytelling.
Yeah.
It's a different thing that has superheroes in it. But if you're going to create a comic book, I understand staying away from what DC and Marvel does best, right? But if I don't know who the competition for this book is, so it should stand alone. And it doesn't. Like, I couldn't care less about this book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a admirable idea, obviously not executed well. And I think it's
Yeah.
with those things. It's like you have to focus on like something they should have. I'm just thinking about that show Deathlock. It's called Deathlock, right? No, what's the name of that show? Oh,
Metal. I can't even say. Metal
Yeah.
Apocalypse.
Yes,
Yeah.
that show has obviously it's from a TV show, but it had the balance of the comedy and
Yes.
then the music kind of almost became its own thing. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
now they're playing festivals. They're playing
Right.
shows.
Yeah.
So I think this Metal Warrior they should have, I think, make the storyline a little bit more straightforward, make it, and not worry about all these kind of vocabulary, all these, just keep it straight up normal. And then the music, I don't know what came first. I'm curious, the music or the
I think I don't know that I don't know, but
but
here's the back of the book. That they always put a little blurb
yeah,
on the back of the book, and this is like a quote from, I guess, the character. I am a being that has lived countless lifetimes. I have fought in many worlds and in many different time spaces. I didn't always have such power. I was not always as righteous as I am now. Forged in misery, blood, and sorrow, the story of the galaxy's most powerful warrior begins here.
it just feels like just like a blabbering of just that didn't tell me anything.
Right, that's what I mean. Like,
It's a whole
and then when you're reading the book, it's all over the place. Sometimes they're in like ancient Egypt with pyramids. Sometimes we're in what appears to be space. Then Vikings show up. Then we're just in, it looks like, a British
That's
town.
a
I
whole
don't know.
lot of nothing.
It's all over the
So,
place. None of it may. I don't know. I don't know.
so PJ, as we're wrapping this up, I'll start with this. Are we gonna recommend these things? Would I recommend this album to folks for regular Dream Theater fans? Yeah, you're gonna get it. Yeah, for the average listener who wants to listen to something different, Dream Theater has a huge catalog. Try some of their first earlier albums from like 91 to I'll say 2005, and after that, there's a couple of good albums sprinkled into there. But if you're gonna start off with this album, I would say it's fine. I would start off with the Midnight Messiah to kind of get things rolling, and then maybe go into, like I say, like maybe Dead Asleep, and then go into Bend the Clock and Broken Man, and then Night Terror, and then finish off with the Epic. The Epic's not gonna get you wrapped up into this. That's not a song you want to get yourself into.
But what's
Yeah,
good, with all the Spotify's and Apple Musics in the world that we're already
yeah,
paying for, you can
mhm.
you can listen to this album without having to spend extra money on it. So it's like, why not
Yeah,
give it a shot?
yeah.
You
Hmm.
know?
And PJ, it sounds like you would not recommend the book. Obviously, the
No,
music.
I wouldn't recommend this book, but if you wanted to, if someone out there wants to come in and just buy one anyway because they feel
Mhm.
bad that I ordered it and no one's ever going to buy it,
Yep,
feel free to spend money on it, but I can't in good faith tell you to. I would not recommend it.
gotcha.
But if you want to support your local comic book store located at 2055
Mm,
Hempstead Turnpike in East Meadow, you can buy it anyway. And then you can say, hey, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. Here's what I'll do. If someone comes into the store to buy, I only bought a few of them. I think I have one left.
Yeah.
I only bought like 3. One for
Mhm.
me and 2 for the store. I got 1 or 2 left in the store. If you say that you heard about the album, about the comic book on this show, I will give you 25% off the price.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. 25. So it's a $20 book. So what is that? $5 off?
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you 25% off this book if you talk about having heard the review about it on our show and you want to see how bad it is for yourself. Let me know. Yeah.
But thanks for listening, folks. Same time, same table.
Have a good one.
Boys and girls, lunchtime is over. For more information, visit their website at coolkidslunchtable.podbean.com. Follow the boys on all social media platforms. Just search Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast. Now get to class before you get detention.